Bene, bene, eccoci arrivati alla quinta anteprima online degli EV Pro Days. Come sempre farò una breve presentazione di questo incontro in italiano, però poi lascerò la parola a Claudia e Rasheed che ovviamente passeranno all'inglese. Ci tenevo solo a dire che questo appuntamento, questo incontro è un incontro a cui noi di Vipro tenevamo tantissimo, perché è comunque un'occasione importante di confronto e di ascolto anche rispetto ad un lavoro, ad uno sviluppatore che sta realizzando un videogioco, di cui adesso ci parlerà, legato alla Palestina, e un gioco per raccontare la Nakba. Quindi ringrazio Claudia, ringrazio Rasheed. I want to thank you, Rasheed and Claudia, for accepting our invitation. So I'm going to remove myself from the screen, and I'm going to give the floor to Claudia to introduce you, Rasheed, and then you can start with your lecture. So thank you again for being here with us.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Rasheed. It's a real honor for me to introduce you. You are one of the greatest independent game developer, and you are from Palestine. And this for us, it's a very important moment in Italy to be able to introduce such a caliber of a personality. What we must admire about your work, Rasheed, is the way that you connect personal experience, political reality, and creative expression, and you're able to build games under circumstances that most of us can hardly imagine. Rasheed, previous work, it's Lila and the Shadows of War, but this upcoming work, Dream on a Pillow, which it will talk about in a moment, explore the everyday experience of living under occupation through a deeply human lens. Rasheed has recently been successfully won a crowdfunding, so Dream on a Pillow has been recognized because of the importance and because of the voice that the game can spread about the Palestine cause. And at a time when Palestine is once again at the center of a painful and complex history, this voice reminds us that creativity can also be a form of resistance and a form of resilience, and a way to affirm presence, humanity, and dignity through art. And perhaps, and this is something that I really would like to stress, as Vittorio Arrigoni used to say, the most powerful message that we can take from stories like this is simply staying human. I'm very happy to introduce him today at EV Pro Day to share his journey, his challenges, and his reflection of what it means to make games when the world around us it's under pressure and it's failing us in every possible ways. Please, Rasheed, the stage is yours. I really hope that my introduction didn't take too much long. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Claudia, for this emotional introduction. I appreciate it. And thank you, and you and Andrew, for the invitation for this event. I'm glad to be here with you. So let's start. My name is Rasheed Abueideh. I'm from Palestine, and I'm a father of 5 kids. If you wonder, like 5 kids is too much, come on, guys. I live in Palestine, so you can imagine. I'm working as a game designer and a creative director. So my personal mission is to create games that talk about Palestine, that tells stories about Palestine in the past and even in our daily life. If you wonder why games, because I think games have this unique thing that can deliver unique experience for the audience. So in the game, you are not just playing a game, you are living the game, you are part of the game itself, you are taking action and making decision in the game. You are not just witnessing something happening in front of you. You are part of the action. And that by itself, it creates more deep emotional connection with you, and that stays for a long time. And the story itself that you experience in the game resonate more than any other medium. In my previous work, I made a game called Layla and the Shadows of War. It tells a story of a little girl that lives in Gaza during the attacks in 2014. And it was based on true event. The game itself was response to these attacks on Gaza in 2014. And if you can remember, 2014 was way before 2023. And also, I wanted to say something against the misleading information that we see in the Western media in general. But it was not like an easy job, because I had to build a team of volunteers to work on such a project. And to convince them to do this, I had to build a complete prototype of the game and to show it to the team member. Some of them were scared to join, some of them they refused. But at the end, I was successfully working with some Palestinian refugees living outside of Palestine to work with me on this emotional story that we made about the attacks on Gaza. And this is one of the aspects, one of the challenges is to make an emotional story that you have to live these atrocities on daily basis, just to watch the videos, to hear the sounds, and to make something authentic about what happened during these attacks. It took us kind of 2 years under development, because we were working not in volunteering, not dedicated in full time. But at the end, when we released the game, it was like a shock for us when the App Store rejected the game, because they said it is a political statement and it should be under the news category, not in the games category, because of the context of the game. Even though, like, in the game itself, we did not have any symbol or any political thing. We just told a human story about the impact of war on civilians and the impact of war on children. But that by itself resulted in an outcry on the social media, and the game was approved on the App Store after a few days, because the developer and the gaming community were talking about it. The game got a huge support, and we have almost around 2 million downloads with a very high rating. It was featured on Google Play and released also to PC in 2021, and it supports multiple languages. It was covered by multiple magazines and newspaper, many gaming websites that talked about the game, and even news outlets talked about the story of Layla and the Shadows of War. But the most important thing for me was the reaction from the players, from the audience. And we have seen that on their reaction videos on YouTube. And also we read their comments on the store pages. They were very powerful, and they were very emotional, because the game itself hits them to the core, and it actually resonated to them. It won many awards in that year, in 2016. And what was surprising, that it was used as an evidence in many academic researches that games can evoke empathy and can be used to support human rights. But Layla by itself was a game, a reaction for an event. but it is not talking about the root cause of what's happening in Palestine. And I saw that problem that many of my audience do not understand the full picture of what's happening in Palestine. So I wanted to make something else. I wanted to make something that talks actually about the root cause of what's happening in Palestine. So I started working on a new game in 2017, but I didn't have enough funding. So I tried to bootstrap it in the same way that I made Layla and the Shadows of War. But for me, it was like the scope that I wanted to make is larger than Layla. Layla and the Shadows of War is it's a very simple game. It's around 15 minutes of a gameplay. It took us around 2 years working in our free time. And this one, the one that I wanted to make, does have much larger scope, and it talks about deeper story, and we want to evoke wider emotions with this game. So we wanted a production level that is much higher. So I couldn't do it by myself. And the other problem that I'm living under occupation. And what this simply means that occupiers actually control every aspect of your life to the point where the daily life by itself is a struggle. And even the basic things is considered as a challenge. This results to what I call a creative siege, where trying new things and failure is a luxury by itself that you cannot afford. So in 2023, when we have seen a new wave of ethnic cleansing on the Palestinian started, and we've also seen the misleading information on the Western media, I felt I have this responsibility because I have seen the impact of my previous game. So I wanted to make something. I wanted to continue doing the first game that I wanted to do. So I went back to my old sketchbooks. I pulled all of these, all the prototype, and started working again on the game, which is talking about the Nakba. And the Nakba, the translation for it is the catastrophe, which is the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians in 1948. The Nakba is the forced displacement of more than 750,000 Palestinians from their homes and the destruction of more than 530 villages. It's also the killing of more than 15,000 Palestinians in a series of massacres were committed during these events in 1948. And the problem, the Nakba is not history. We are still living under the shadows of what happened in 1948, but also in a much larger scale. So I started working on a game called Dreams on a Pillow, which is talking about the Nakba. It's a stealth adventure game about a land full of people turned into people without land. It follows the story of a mother from a peaceful village. Her life was destroyed by intruders attacked her village. We are talking about the story of this mother that in panic through the destruction of her village and her home, she reached for her child and ran out. She thought she was holding her baby, only to realize later it was a pillow. And this is inspired by a true event that happened during the Nakba. But what is the process and the challenge of making such event, such catastrophe into a game? So we started with the research. And the problem with this, for the Palestinian, most of the information that we have about the Nakba is translated to us, is it's transferred to us through the oral history. There is no proper documentation for what happened during the Nakba. And many of these survivors are scattered in many countries. They are not located in one location. So to grab all of the information from one source. And the other problem, the historical documents of Palestine before 1948 were also stolen. And the Israeli archive about the Nakba is closed. And the problem with oral testimonies, it was always met by denial from the Western world. So, for example, one of these villages called the Tantura, and we are making our game based on that village. The survivors from Tantura, they are talking about multiple massacres that committed and occurred during the attack on that village. But there was always a denial for what happened in Tantura. So many researchers and academics, they try to go with something they call open source investigation. And one of these organizations is called Forensic Architecture. They do an open source investigation about events that happened that represent a case of state violence. And they collect information from multiple resources like video files, audio, or images that were existing either online or offline. They collect all of these information that is available for the public, and they try to go to the private archives for individual and get all of this information if they can, and they come up with conclusions about what happened during such event. So, for example, just comparing the satellite images of Tantura before the Nakba and after, before 1948, you can see the destruction, the amount of destruction that happened to that village. And even with doing some research and comparing some of these images, they were able to locate some of these massive graves that these massacres were committed, and actually understand what happened during that period. But the Nakba itself is not only about the numbers. It's not only the facts that is clear for us. There are many hidden aspects for the Nakba, and one of them is the psychological aspect and the trauma the Palestinians had to experience during and after the Nakba. And that did not end with the first generation of the Nakba survival, because it was inherited to the rest of the generations, because they are still living in refugee camps with a forgotten history and with no clear future. So the other aspect also is hiding evidence about the Nakba, the destruction of these villages, renaming all of these villages to other names, and even planting trees and forests over the ruin of these villages to hide what they did. And they even rewrite the maps. And the Nakba also included a culture theft. So you can think from the basic and the very simple things like stealing the food itself and make it a national dish, something like hummus, to the level of clearing the entire map from the name Palestine and changing it. But we are not making a documentary. We are not talking about the facts only. We are talking about the feelings that we need to deliver for the players. And we're trying to make an emotional connection through this experience and this story. So in games, we have a different challenge. We need to come up with mechanics that support the story that we are telling and evoke the emotions that we want the player to feel during the gameplay. So we wanted the player to feel the loss. We wanted the player to feel the joy also of living in Palestine before the Nakba. So all of these emotions should be considered in actually in the mechanics of the game, not only just a part of the story disconnected from the gameplay itself, to make the game actually resonate. And it's not like a two separated things, like where the gameplay is separated from the story itself. So we come up with a mechanics, because like in the story that we are talking, this woman now, after she realized that she's carrying the pillow, now she's running away with the pillow because she's traumatized and she believes that the pillow itself is her baby. So whenever she wants to overcome an obstacle by using her hand, she has to put the pillow somewhere and to use her hand, maybe to climb a ladder to get something, or to push an obstacle in front of her. And at the moment where she puts the pillow, the nightmare and the fear of losing her child will start and will take over her brain. And this is go hand by hand to tell the story of the psychological impact that the Palestinians had during the Nakba. The other challenge that we faced also is the Nakba itself has many aspects, and we cannot cover all of these aspects in one game. So we needed to make sure that we are focused and the story itself is clear. So we are only addressing the story and the relevant story to our general story, to make the gameplay experience not fragmented, and to keep it clear, and to make the player go in a coherent experience with the gameplay, so we will not lose the interest of the player. The other thing that is challenging was the emotional basing of the game. If it is pure sadness and grief, it becomes emotionally exhausting. So that's why we carefully balance the game emotion and emotional basing. So we divided the game into two parts. One part is talking about the life of Palestinians during the Nakba and after the Nakba, and the other part is talking about the Palestinian life before the Nakba. And showing this contrast between the life before and after not only helped us in balancing the emotions, but also show the contrast and the big difference between the Palestinian life before and after the Nakba, which makes the loss feel more impactful when you actually know what you lost. And we also use this to debunk the old lie that they always say, it's a land without people for a people without land. So we needed to show the culture of Palestine before the Nakba, and we needed to show how the Palestinians living their daily life, and how they are taking care of their lands, how they are taking care of their trees and their farms, and what are the daily activities, and how was Palestine before this all of this happened. Another challenge is to make our story relatable. So common themes such as community or motherhood or loss are universal, and we can understand them all over the world. But when we talk about something specific to the Palestinian culture, for example, like the relationship between the Palestinians and their olive tree, I consider this kind of a complex theme where maybe not all of the audience will understand that. So we need to break down that theme to the level where the player understand that, because for us the relationship between the Palestinians and their farm is and their olive tree is not like a normal tree. They grow their olive tree as if they are raising their own child. Sometimes they just go to their farms just to say hi to their olive tree and just to touch them, and they consider it like a source of life and identity and connection to the land. So we had to break down all of these complex themes to make them relatable for an audience that is not familiar with our culture. The other aspect is funding. When we tried to go to publishers, we asked around more than 300 publishers, and none of them returned to us in a positive signal. Sorry. So we went to crowdfunding, and that was kind of an amazing experience for us. We've got support and publicity about the game in a very wide range and very overwhelming support, actually. And what's amazing about crowdfunding for us, that keeps the creativity freedom completely under our hands. This is kind of a very important aspect for me to do this game. Right now, we are working, we're finishing the pre-production phase of Dreams on a Pillow. We are reaching a state where we will have the vertical slice very soon. And we're launching a crowdfunding campaign later at the end of this year, late December, to complete like the budget for the project, because what we raised so far covered us for the first year, and we are trying to raise more to complete the funding for the full cycle of the project. At the end of my talk, I want to leave you with this message. In my research, I realized a very painful realization, actually. In 1948, the Zionists made a huge effort to erase all the evidence about the Nakba. At that time, it seems they were afraid from the public opinion. But today, we are witnessing the genocide in real time. There is no need to do a research to know where are these mass graves in Gaza. In the Nakba in 1948, they tried to hold the genocide because maybe the world will not accept that. But today, in 2025, the genocide was live streamed to the public. And it seems the world accepted that and normalized with that. This time, I don't think we only buried the Palestinians in these massive graves. We also buried a lot of the values, the human values, deep down. And the problem with this, if we accept this and we normalize with this, it will become the new rule in the world. So this might happen to any nation anywhere else. So the question that I want to leave you with is, are you going to do something? Thank you. And this is the end of my talk.
Thank you so much, Rasheed. This was really touching. And of course, it's also a very difficult question, the one that you're posing to everybody that is watching. First of all, I really want to ask if there are questions from the audience, and if anybody wants to contribute to this conversation that we're going to start together, because we have some times and we have the opportunity to ask questions and answer to questions like what Rasheed just asked us, because we are, as you rightly said, we are witnessing a very of course, we cannot say that we are as traumatized as you are in Palestine, because you are living a living hell right now. But humanity, I feel, it's really traumatized these days, what we're seeing, and the fact that we are not able to physically do anything. So I think the majority of the people, just to answer your question, the majority of the people that believes in the Palestinian cause, because then, as you rightfully said, people can just turn their heads and not care about what's going on. And this is very painful for some of us. But for those who are trying to stay human, as I was saying when I introduced you, what we are trying to do is to get connected as much as we can with what's going on. So, like, for example, even what Andrea did right now by inviting you, it was for us such a big effort. And the fact that we, as we as developers in Italy, some of us try to get the crowdfunding of Dream on a Pillow reaching the media, and the attention right now that the Italian gaming community is doing, it's high. There is this project called Voice of Palestine, run by some studios, and this is the least we can do. If we could do more, but it's really hard also to watch, and your experience and your testimony, it's so valuable, and the fact that it will stay and we're going to spread it as much as we can. This is what we're doing right now. So your question has not a defined answer, but for those who are so committed, both because they believe in this huge injustice, at the same time they feel traumatized, as I was saying to you. This is an important moment. This one that I'm saying right now, right here, 24th of October with you, it's an important moment and testimony for the Italian video game industry and cultural events. So I don't know if I've answered, but I hope I did.
Yeah.
So I will throw again in the chat if there are any questions. If there are people, even if they want to speak in Italian, I will be happy to translate it in English. Otherwise, I have a few questions for you, Rasheed, that I would like to pose you to get an answer from you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I don't think anybody's writing, also because it's really hard. First of all, I think Italian people can relate with olive tree, just to get a little bit more. It's
I can imagine. Yes.
It's a tree that has such a spiritual power. So I definitely, most of us that lived, not every cities in Italy are touched by the Mediterranean Sea, but those who are, like I grew up right in the Mediterranean, and for me, olive trees, it's a spiritual tree. It's a tree that has, you cannot touch it. It's just like, it's like removing a temple. It's like, it has such an inestimable value. So definitely that picture that you showed of the woman embracing the tree, it's so powerful. So thank you for sharing it. But let me ask you a question. Maybe it's a little bit longer. I wrote it down. In a very old interview, almost 10 years ago, you said about Lila and the Shadows of War, and I quote, "The game itself does not say anything about any side. There is nothing political in the game." And you expressed this in your presentation. So I wanted to ask you now, with Dreams on a Pillow, you draw from a Palestinian, let's say, tale, even though it's not a tale, the one that you talked about, this woman, this mother grabbing the pillow and running away. But you turned that story into a contemporary reflection on loss and memory. So by framing the story as a mother's dream, you seem to transform violence into something almost suspended, not less real, but let's say differently felt. So the question is, do you think that working with metaphoric imagery, like the one that you are doing with the game, can reveal what today realism cannot? Because today we are seeing such a strong imagery from Palestine. Every time we open our phones, the pictures that we see are just devastating. But it seems like that this does not touch the hearts. So the question is, do you think that working with fairy tale and imaginary and metaphors today is stronger than working with realism?
What we are doing actually is touching both sides. We are touching realism because in the journey from leaving her village into a refugee camp in Lebanon, she's moving through all of these villages and seeing all of this real event that happened during the journey. So we are touching these real events, and we are showing the hardship of that. The metaphor that is used when she puts the pillow is actually like an additional layer of hardship to the real to the physical pain that they suffered. So it is kind of like another layer of hardship from what you can see actually during the Nakba to what you can also feel while you are moving from your home. So we are touching both aspects because it is important, because like we're not talking about fairy tale, we're talking about something that happened actually, and we need to show these facts. So this is why we are using the same villages that were actually destroyed, and we're trying to make everything authentic to that period of time and to what happened during the Nakba, and adding that extra layer, which is kind of something that all Palestinian survivals from Nakba had, this trauma of leaving and displacement from their land. So I don't think I've seen any work that touches that aspect in such level. Most of the work that I've seen about the Nakba, they talk about the facts and they talk about what happened. This is good, but I didn't want to just ignore the trauma that is still inherited to the generations that are living with a lost history and without a future as refugees.
Thank you very much. This was very clear. I take the time to ask you a few more questions, if I may. In Dreams on a Pillow, if I got it right, the role of the player is not the one of a savior or a hero. It's more like you want the player to witness silently, moving through fragments of memory and fragments of fear. Was this choice meant to question also the traditional power dynamics of video games? Do you think that it's a way making a game about war. You know, the majority of the games, if we take the statistics of titles, we have a very big chunks of video games that talk about wars. Most of them are ancient wars, wars that Roman wars or things like this. So they are not contemporary. You are talking about something that, okay, happened 70, 80 years ago, but it's still very on. So this choice of a little bit questioning the traditional power dynamics of video games, where player usually controls and conquer, and instead what you do, you are inviting a different, more vulnerable kind of participation. Do you think that this could be also one of the objectives of the game, aside from talking about this important piece of history? Like somehow can this game serve as a testimony to change also the way that future games about war will talk about war?
Yeah, I guess yes. One aspect, because like the Nakba itself, it's all about losing too much, losing everything, losing your home, losing your memory, losing also your hope. So it made perfect sense just to make the player vulnerable to feel that. And usually when I try to make a gameplay, I start from the feeling, what feeling I want the player to have in my game, in my experience, and then I come up with a gameplay. So starting with the feeling of loss, starting with a feeling of helplessness, that made a perfect sense just to make the player a vulnerable mother. She wanted to just protect her child, but she couldn't, and she were traumatized. And I can add to this, like also another aspect of that story. The relationship between a mother and her child is the strongest relationship in the human relationships ever. Like you will never see a mother that dumped her child, but it is showing that actually happened during the Nakba. That tells you something. That tells you what happened to that woman was like the Judgment Day. She were unable to uh, actually take her child because of what's happening around her, because of the panic she felt during that moment of fleeing from her home. So by itself, the kind of the story and the relationship between a mother and her child, I think it is a strong metaphor about the magnitude of what happened in 1948.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're just giving me an assist to ask you another question about your work, because what you said was so meaningful in terms of your work, the one that you did before and now the one that you're doing now, can be read through the lens of resistance, but it also, especially Dreams on a Pillow, it carries a sense of tenderness in a way, kind of a refusal to let the violence have the last word. Am I right in saying this? Like, do you think that tenderness itself can be political, a form of resistance, a form of resilience, that showing care, showing somehow beauty in the way that you're crafting the game artistically, and or humanity within destruction might somehow be a radical gesture in the language of games? Because, you know, somehow the way that you are, that this story, that it's already kind of used, it's a true story that happened 80 years ago, but somehow it feels already like a legend, like the one that in 200 years time you read in books and you say, oh my God, this story seems like a real story, might be real, might be not, but it's 100% real. But it has such a depth of tenderness and kind of, as a mother, I have a mother not of 5, good job to you, but I'm a mother of a child, and when I read your story, I felt so destroyed in one sense, but in another way, I felt such a tenderness and connection. So, what do you think about the fact that there is a way of being political also by using this artistic touch that you're providing with your game?
Yeah, and I think we're in a position where everything is considered resilience by itself. Like we only say, like we always say that existence by itself is kind of a resistance. So even the smallest actions by itself is considered an act of resilience. I can give you example right now because like these days is the olive harvesting season, and many of the farmers and villagers are trying to reach to their farms and to their olive trees, but settlers are attacking them all over the West Bank, and you can just like think of that that action, just going to your olive tree and harvesting them as an action of resilience. So what we are trying to do is because like yeah, you talked about also the war games, and we have suffered a lot from some of these war games and also some of these war movies that they are dehumanizing the Palestinians. So showing this beauty of Palestine and the beauty of the Palestinian culture and the Palestinian life is a way to humanize. I'm not saying like to humanize because it's the opposite, but to show the true and the facts and to clear the misrepresentation of the Palestinians through decades of brainwashing and changing the image of Palestine and the Palestinians. So it is kind of correcting and changing the narrative and showing a new aspect of the Palestinians. They lived in this land for ages, for thousands of years, and they belong to this land, and they have their own life and their own culture and their all the narrative of existence, and we're trying to share that to the world so they can connect and relate to what we are suffering from right now.
I see. Thank you so much.
Here I am again. Sorry, I was listening to you and behind the scenes. So I want a friend of mine just wrote me a message, and he said I wanted to ask something, but I don't know what to ask because maybe he said it's better to listen and to feel and maybe to do something. So it's nice because it's not easy to ask something to Rasheed because your presentation, Rasheed, was very touching. So I think that's why a lot of people, like my friend, said, I don't know what to ask. It's not easy to ask something considering the situation where you are living. So thank you very much for the game you are creating. As I told at the beginning, we thought it was very important to have you with us today during this lecture. And as I told you before, I think it's very useful that this lecture is going to be saved on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, so people, even after this live streaming, people can watch it, share it, and yes, I think it's important. The word share. We have to share to let people know what is happening, and your game is working on this side. So thank you very much. I think the lecture for today, I don't know. Sorry, I also my English is not too good, as good as Claudia, and also I'm speechless after this presentation. So thank you, Rasheed, again for accepting our invitation. Thank you, Claudia, for moderating this lecture.
Thank you.
I hope a lot of professors and students can watch this lecture after the live streaming. So I'm switching to Italian for a while, solo per darvi appuntamento all'ultima lecture online il prossimo lunedì alle 18. Parleremo di come i videogiochi possono includere diverse culture in maniera rispettosa all'interno dei giochi. Insieme a noi ci sarà Yekta Kalantar Ormozi, spero di non aver pronunciato male il nome, quindi ci vediamo lunedì alle 18. Thank you again, Rasheed. Thank you, Claudia, and I hope to meet you in person soon, Rasheed. So
yeah, me too. So.
It would be a pleasure. So
I will bring you.
Good luck with your game, and
yeah, and thank you
for posted.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation. I consider it like an act of support. Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Bye bye.
See you.
Thank
bye. Ciao a tutti.